I'm shocked.
I am too, because how many times did you come in here and say, gosh, it's Bolduc and it's Newhook and it's Texier and it's...
First of all, you can critique your star players all you want. I'm just shocked that he specifically went after like Marner and Toronto as the example. Like,
oh, why are you shocked?
You are? Recently, Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, and Sam McKee reflected on the words that Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes shared during their post-mortem interview with the press after the Montreal Canadiens were eliminated from Stanley Cup contention. They managed to somehow miss the point completely what Kent Hughes was trying to say, and also made it about the Toronto Maple Leafs as much as they possibly could. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to touch on the climate for this type of stuff happening in the Montreal Canadiens community.
Glad they had a great time. Next time, show the same effort trying to leave your zone in Carolina. Maybe it'll work out for you.
Because I think more and more, this stuff is going to happen. Let's talk about it. One thing the Toronto media has never been accused of is being level-headed and pragmatic. But what struck me recently is that since Toronto isn't in a playoff spot, Ottawa isn't in a playoff spot, they've had to talk about the Montreal Canadiens more often than they usually do. I'm mostly familiar with how Sportsnet reports on this. At times, it feels like they begrudgingly have to be on board and supportive of the Montreal Canadiens. But since being eliminated, guess what? Montreal's been taking some shots. Funny how that works. Before I sink my teeth into this, before I really get talking about it, I would like to thank you, the Whiskeylung community. That's right, even you, Jeremy. We've come a long way, baby. We're almost at 26,000 subscribers. If you're not already subscribed, can you help me get there? Everyone else just hit that like button, helps me out with something with YouTube. So it's funny. These personalities, the ones that are backed up by, big organizations like Sportsnet, they're after views, they're after clicks, they're after controversy, they're after sensationalism. So I find often they will get sidetracked, they'll get off track. And because Rogers owns Sportsnet and because Rogers owns the Toronto Maple Leafs, any little bit of news media that somehow grazes up against the Maple Leafs, they'll latch onto it and try to make the biggest story they can. So the context, I think you need to listen to exactly what Kypreos and Bourne said.
The one thing that was unprovoked at all was Kent Hughes, again, the general manager meeting today, and drawing up some parallels with the Toronto Maple Leafs on star players not showing up in the playoffs.
You got asked about the lack of production, I guess, from them.
Yes.
Play the Kent Hughes clip, Eric.
Being here in Canada, it's going to be a little bit of the narrative going into the Cup final that there was that belief that certain players in Toronto underperformed in the playoffs, and one playoff season wouldn't necessarily reflect another. And I think Mitch Marner is sitting atop of the playoff scoring race, and it's not just what he's doing offensively, it's how he's contributing to their team being where they are. And if we look around at the three series that we had, or the three teams that we played against in the playoffs, it wasn't necessarily their top scorers that were their top scorers, including Carolina, right? I think it's been offensively driven more by Stankov and Blake and Hall, and that wasn't necessarily the case in the regular season. So we just got to get better, period.
I'm shocked.
I am too, because how many times did you come in here and say, gosh, it's Bolduc and it's Newhook and it's Texier and it's...
First of all, you can critique your star players all you want. I'm just shocked that he specifically went after like Marner and Toronto as the example.
Oh, why are you shocked?
You are? That's all anyone talks about every day, so I'm not surprised by it.
You, maybe me, JB, and anyone else, but not another general manager to specifically call out another player and use the word underperformed in the playoffs. To me, it's like, why? You don't need to go there, Kent. You don't.
I'm sure he regretted it immediately. Honestly.
I would hate it right now if I'm John Chaika. Just like, and John wasn't even a part of the Marner or anything else, but you don't need to go single out my organization. You don't.
Don't talk to my ball. It's like, this is not your domain.
Watch your bobber?
Watch your own bobber? Yeah.
I just think that he's so afraid of this.
What's coming?
Like, listen, this is a wonderful run. And great job. They got to the conference finals. That's something to be proud of. But nothing's guaranteed, Kip. Nothing's guaranteed. Everyone just assumes that they're going to go further. And I think that's what he's afraid of. And he's just laying the groundwork early that maybe these stars aren't built for these moments.
You're feeding the beast.
Totally.
And he brings up in Canada. So it's like, is this your guarded way of saying, I hope they don't go after Suzuki and Caulfield now like they went after Marner in Toronto?
100%.
Then say it then. Say it.
I think this also deserves the context of what Kent Hughes was responding to. The question was originally asked to Jeff Gorton, and Hughes felt like he needed to illustrate his point as well. And I agree with him. Just have a listen.
Your top line drove the bus the whole year and provided a lot of offense. Coming in the playoffs, they had their hands full in all three series. What did you learn about their way to handle playoff hockey, and to which extent is this a byproduct of the fact that the supporting cast was not quite there for them?
I mean, I think playoffs was kind of a little bit of a flip from the regular season, right? In the regular season, our top line kind of drove everything all the time, right? And we probably asked a lot of them. And in the playoffs, we got, some secondary scoring quite a bit. Really impactful guys down the bottom of the lineup. So, listen, I think that, like I said, we're asking a lot of our top guys, and maybe that was a part of it. They did find a way to get on the sheet. I think still Nick ends up pretty close to a point a game, right, in the playoffs, playing against some of the best players in the league. So I think more importantly for them is, I think, going through it and understanding, what it's going to take and how to manage themselves going forward to be able to get through the playoffs round after round. It's difficult. So all three of them had great years. I don't think we can lose sight of that. I think they all did something that they haven't done before. 30-goal scorer, a 50-goal scorer, a 100-point season. We can't lose sight of that. But the playoffs is hard. I think if you look around the league, some of the top guys, they're going against the best D in the league, and they're able to neutralize at some points. And so I think going forward, just understanding that, having that experience that they have now is going to help them and help us. And so I look forward to what they'll do next.
So, with that added bit of context, makes sense that Hughes wanted to chime in there and make those points, because Jeff left out that a lot of the teams in the playoffs and in previous history have had their top lines and their top players shut down, and that it was a big problem in Toronto for many years. But now that Marner has moved to a system that is allowing him to break through, to find those moments, big moments in big games, he's not only exceeding expectations, he's excelling. And the reason why Toronto is such a great example is they're a top-heavy team. And if you build from the bottom, sometimes what happens is you prop those top guys up. Well, Toronto kind of painted themselves into a corner with that. It's not calling Toronto out, it's pragmatism. That's why the things in Toronto are happening the way that they are. But now let's break down what Kypreos and Bourne say. Kypreos starts by saying that this was unprovoked. Dude, Hughes is just using Toronto as an example. Is he not allowed to do this? It seems pretty reasonable. He even alludes to the media beating this topic like a dead horse because it has been beat to death. I also love here how McKee gives a big reaction to Hughes saying that Toronto has underperformed in the playoffs. Like, is that disputable? And again, when Hughes mentions that Mitch Marner is on top of the playoff scoring race, Bourne and McKee are both like, did he just say that? Yo, it's black and white, my guys. You can't argue with the numbers. Kypreos says that he's shocked. Bourne says that he is too. And then Bourne accidentally proves Hughes right.
I'm shocked.
I am too, because how many times did you come in here and say, gosh, it's Bolduc and it's Newhook and it's Texier and it's...
He quotes Kypreos as saying that the bottom six on Montreal was instrumental to the success of this playoff run. Right. That's why they made it to the conference finals. That's what Hughes is trying to say. But in order to do better, they need to continue to improve. Man, But at this point, Kypreos cuts Bourne off by saying that Hughes shouldn't critique another team's star players, which might be the biggest failure to process Hughes' comments in this whole segment. Hughes is defending the players, you moron. I'm sorry, but this really gets on my nerves. These guys are paid probably more than I am, hundreds of dollars a month, and they can't even process this correctly. Anyway, he says that he's shocked that Marner gets used as an example, which I'd already said is a great example to prove his point. But then McKee says, "You're shocked? I don't know why you'd be shocked. It's what everyone says every day. Thank you." Kypreos then says that he's specifically called out a player by saying that they underperformed in the playoffs. Well, yeah, he did. This is supposed to be some big taboo, apparently. Although they've been saying this for 9 years? And when I say they, I literally mean these specific guys. The Toronto fan base, analysts, players, coaching staff. Anyway, then Kypreos says, "I would hate this if I'm John Chaika." Why? This is literally a component of what gave him the job in Toronto. This is a pretty brainless take too. This might be the worst take in the whole little tirade. Then, maybe in the most condescending part of this whole thing, McKee says that he's so afraid, he being Kent Hughes, insinuating that what happened in Toronto is also going to happen to Montreal. This is off base, but at least I understand what kind of narrative he's trying to draw. The problem is Montreal didn't pay their players $11 bazillion to play in one of the most passionate markets in the NHL. The other thing is they're in year 4 of a rebuild that you can even say isn't really officially over because there's still pieces that were acquired during the rebuild that have yet to be implemented. But still, they've made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, a task that Toronto has never done in the Matthews era, has not done in the regular playoff format since 2002. Sorry, I'm realizing that I'm really picking this apart, and I'm actually kind of getting myself frustrated. Not usually this animated. This just really bugs me because as much as I try to pump out a lot of content, and I am a Canadiens homer, at least a lot of the time, I still try to treat the community as if we're participating together in a forum of thoughts and ideas. I get challenged all the time. I get individuals coming in from different fan bases, and I want everybody to feel welcomed here. But of course, Montreal is my team, so I'm going to root for them above anyone else. Still, I love hockey. I root for players that I like. I root for other teams as well, as long as Montreal isn't competing against those other teams. So even though I get challenged, I try to acquiesce. I try to see it from other individuals' points of view. And I do that, I think, pretty good. A lot better than I did in my youth, I can tell you that much. So this just bugs me that these professional individuals are acting like this. But the moral of the story, if there is a moral of the story here, is that this reactionary, alarmist type content gets drummed up by these personalities because it gets clicks, it gets views, which is somewhat ironic because this video that I'm currently making is probably the biggest engagement farm that I've pulled off since the Brad Marchand getting traded from Boston to Florida video. Or maybe it was the time that I did the video about Paul Bissonnette getting jumped by all those guys. Regardless, the moral, don't fall into this trap. The Toronto market got a lot of flack for being very critical of their players. I almost don't blame them. The team was mismanaged for a long time, and a passionate fan base demands success, and they weren't getting there. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and the fans were becoming desperate. They wanted change. They wanted their team to react better. They became loud, the noise became loud, and the market became toxic. It was bound to happen, but don't blame the players, blame the game. No, not the game, blame management. That's why when I'm seeing now, Brendan Gallagher had his emotional, reflective goodbye. When I see things like that and I see the Habs community saying things like, how could they do this to him? They couldn't have let him play out his contract. Martin St. Louis doesn't respect Gallagher.
When Hughes was asked about Gallagher, he said, well, wherever we do, we're going to treat him with respect. And then Gallagher comes out and basically talks about how they treated him with a lack of respect.
We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened.
In the end, it's just business. And the individuals saying those types of things were probably the exact same individuals saying he's too old and bench him and he shouldn't be part of this team and he's too expensive, etc., etc. So yeah, unfortunately with things like that, it's just business. And this is a business at the end of the day. But in order to improve, sometimes you have to act without emotion. And that's in order to get better. And maybe getting better at the bottom makes the ones at the top even more productive. So my message to you is not to get caught up in that trap of getting mad at the players unless there is a genuine reason. Because just like you or I, we want to do good. We want to perform well. We want to get raises. We want to get new opportunities. We want things to come to us easily. But sometimes that warrants hard work, and that's what athletes have to deal with. And if you look at Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky, Lane Hudson, Ivan Demidov, and Jakub Dobesh, do those seem like individuals who don't want to excel at their jobs? That's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know Montreal season's over. I know that we're not super thrilled about the Golden Knights versus Carolina Hurricane, but I think I will report on the Stanley Cup Finals. If Game 1 was any indication, it's probably going to be a pretty good series, despite you probably don't really want to see those two teams there. Not a popular series, but maybe it's going to be a good one. So I hope you join me in following that. Take care of yourselves. You guys know what to do. Like the video. It helps me out with, I don't know. I really don't know. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you. And as always, I will see you down in the comments.